What up, y'all, and welcome to the Wizard's Forge. This video will be covering how spells are created in the Creator Kit and how to add new spells to your spell menu. To do this, we'll be unlocking the cut spell Obliviate, which will, when you're fighting enemies and you cast Obliviate, it'll automatically drop their aggro. Now, with that being said, let's get started. For this video, we'll start by creating an empty mod, and then we'll go over how spells are created in the Creator Kit. Then we'll go over an overview of spell records to find out what spells the player can cast, and how to add to that list of spells. Then we'll go over how to unlock Obliviate, and add Obliviate as a castable spell. Then we'll finalize our spell text and icon to make it look how we want to in-game. Then we'll finish off this video by testing our mod and uploading it to CurseForge. To create our new spell mod, first we're going to create an empty mod. So we'll select the Create Mod button up on top, select Empty Mod, then we'll give our mod a name. I'm going to call this Add New Spells. Important to note, this is going to be the name of your mod plugin, so it's going to be how it's referenced in the Creator Kit. You'll have a chance to rename your mod when you upload it to reflect how you'd like it to look in Steam. Once everything looks good, we'll hit the Create Mod button. Like most things in Hogwarts Legacy, spells start out as an entry in their registry table. So here we'll decide a registry ID and a subtype ID. So we'll decide what the name of the entry is and what type of entry it is. So in this example, we have a registry ID of Levioso. So now the Creator Kit knows any other reference of Levioso in a static table is going to reference this entry. Then we give it a subtype ID of spell. So now the Creator Kit knows that Levioso is a spell. Now it's not enough just to know that Levioso is a spell, the Creator Kit's going to need more information. So after we put Levioso into the spell type ID, we'll have a bunch of different options that we can set to further customize the spell. So we can set the damage, range, projectile speed, cooldown time, if it has an upgrade, and what kind of enemies it can affect. Then once we have a better understanding of what the spell does, we'll send it to another static table to determine how it's learned. And then finally, we send it to the spell knowledge table. This will determine the type of spell it is, so if it's a red spell, a yellow spell, or a blue spell, and whether or not the player can use it. So the two main settings we care here are going to be the lock and the allow in UI. So the lock will be how the player learns the spell. Most spells in Hogwarts Legacy are locked by default, and then through quests or different activities, the player can unlock that spell. Here we set what lock ID the game will need to unlock in order to unlock this specific spell. And finally, the most important for this video is going to be allow in UI. This is going to be whether or not the spell is in the player's spell menu. So this will determine whether or not the player is able to open up the spell menu and equip or unequip this spell. To access the spell knowledge table, first we'll access the DB static text entry table. So we'll select Window, DB text entry, and then select static. From here we'll search spell, and then double click this spell knowledge table. So if we go to Levioso, we'll see that it's a CC spell, which is going to be yellow, and that is allowed in UI, so the player is able to equip and unequip Levioso. We can also set whether or not our companions can use the spell, so we know companions can also use Levioso. And then if we scroll to the end, we have the lock spell underscore Levioso. So when this lock is unlocked, the player will be able to use Levioso. Then if we navigate to our spells folder, so we'll select gameplay, scroll down to toolset, and then select spells. This will give you all of the spells currently in game. So then if we scroll down to Levioso and double click it, there's a couple important assets to reference. So for now, we only care about when the player casts Levioso, so we'll be using this BP underscore Levioso spell. This BP underscore DW Levioso spell is going to be when a dark wizard casts it. So then if we open the BP underscore Levioso spell, we'll see that this lets us determine what Levioso will look like when it's cast, and how enemies will react when hit by it. Then after that, we have the spell record. This is going to reference that Levioso spell tool, and this will determine whether or not the player can cast this spell. So then to find the list of all the spells the player can cast and add to that, we'll go to the BP underscore wand tool. So from here we'll select gameplay, toolset, items, wands, and then double click this BP underscore wand tool. Main thing we care about for this video is going to be the toolset component. So if we double click this, we'll see a list of spell records. So if we click the tool records, we'll see a list of all of the spells that the player is able to cast. Then if we scroll down, we'll see this Levioso spell record data asset we just saw, and since it's in this list, the player is able to cast it. If you wanted to add a spell to this list, you'd add a new data asset to the BP wand tool in your mods folder. Now for this mod, we're going to unlock the ability for the player to cast Obliviate. So we're going to scroll down to here and make sure Obliviate is in this tool records. Then if we scroll down, we see that DA underscore Obliviate spell record is already in this list, so the player can already cast this spell. We just need to unlock it for them and let them equip it. So first we need to set Obliviate to show up in this player's spell menu. So for that, we'll search the spell knowledge table. So go to DB static text entry, spell knowledge, and then scroll down to Obliviate. Once you find the spell Obliviate, select this Allow in UI option to allow that spell in the player's spell menu. You can also set what color Obliviate will be. I'm going to put it as a yellow CC spell, so a crowd control spell. And then also while we're in here, we're going to scroll over to the lock, and we'll see that the lock ID is spell underscore Obliviate, so once we unlock this, the player will be able to equip this spell. Then if we load into a level and open up the spell menu, we'll see that we have a new entry called Obliviate that's locked by default. Next, we'll set this to be unlocked by default, and then change this debug icon, debug text, and debug description. So to unlock Obliviate, first we're going to navigate to the lock definition static table. So we'll select Window, scroll down to DB text entry, select static, search lock, and then double click this lock definition static table. This will give you a list of all of the locks in game. So if we scroll down to spell underscore Obliviate, we can set this from simple underscore locked to simple underscore unlocked. That means instead of unlocking it by a quest, it's just going to be unlocked as soon as the player activates this mod. Then if we exit out of that and load back into our level, if we open up our spell menu, we'll see that we have Obliviate now unlocked, so we can equip it and cast Obliviate. So next we're going to fix the debug text. The debug text that's currently showing is going to be the registry ID, so we can find that by Windows, DB static text entry, and then clicking registry. From here, if we scroll down to our Obliviate entry, we'll see that it's a registry ID of Obliviate, so we'll copy this and go to our localization text editor. To find the localization text editor, we'll select Window, scroll down to the bottom, and click Localization Text Editor. Here we'll be able to set the debug ID and then show how we want it to appear in game. So the ID is going to be Obliviate, and we want it to show as Obliviate in game. So we'll hit Apply Change, and next we'll set the description. So the description is going to have the same registry ID, but it's going to have underscore DESC for description at the end. And then for localization, we'll put what we wanted to show for the spell description. So I'm just going to say, I forgot what this spell does. ... Then we'll hit Apply Changes and close out of this. And then if we load into our level and open up the spell menu, we'll see that Obliviate now has that finalized text that we just set. So Obliviate is now no longer in brackets, and for the description we have, I forgot what this spell does. All that's left to do is set this debug icon. So for this spell icon, I'm going to use an existing one already in game. So we'll scroll down to UI, Icons, Spells, and then I'm going to click the one for Imperious. So I'm going to right click it, and then select Copy Reference. From there I'll navigate back to my mod menu, then I'll press Ctrl V to paste this icon. So that's going to be the icon that appears in the spell menu when you select it. Then there's going to be another UI icon for when the spell is in your spell diamond. So for that one, we'll navigate to the same folder and then click this spell meters. And then we'll click the one for Imperious. Copy reference. Then once again, go back to your spell folder and paste it in here. So now that we have these two textures, we need to tell the game what kind of textures they are. Since these are going to be spell icons, we're going to create a data table. So we'll right click our mod folder, go to miscellaneous, and then select this first data table option. From here we'll select a type, we'll type in icon, and we'll create a data table of type icon info, and select OK. Then we're going to give our data table a name, so we'll call it dt underscore spell icons. And then we'll double click this dt underscore spell icons to open it. Next, we're going to add 2 rows for those icons, but first let's consult our sacred text. This Wizard's Forge Bible is going to be a list of commandments based on mistakes that I made, so you don't have to. This commandment, thou shalt always use the exact spell ID for the row name when adding icons to a data table. The way this data table works is it'll take whatever you put in the spell name and look for an object that has that same exact name. So this data table will search for anything with Obliviate and assign it that first spell icon, and the second one will search for anything with the spell meter underscore Obliviate underscore overlay, and then automatically assign it to that icon. So if these are misspelled or spelt differently, it won't work. So in that data table, we're going to click Add to add a new row. We're going to call this row Obliviate. And then for that spell icon, we're going to select the bigger one, and then select that arrow key to place that icon. And then same thing for the second one, we're going to add a new row. We're going to make sure it's called spell meter underscore Obliviate underscore overlay, and then select the smaller icon, and then select that arrow key to add this as a selected icon. Then we'll press save, then we'll exit out of this data table. And the last thing we need to do is add a mod mutator to add these to the game. So we'll right click the mod folder, select blueprint class, then we'll type in mod mutator, and then select this first one. And we'll call this BP underscore mod mutator. And then we'll double click to open this mod mutator. What this mod mutator is going to do is when this mod is activated, it's going to add these new icons, so this new data table we made, to the data table that's already in game. So for this, we're going to add a new element to data table extension. And then the additional data is going to be our spell icons. So we're going to select dt underscore spell icons, and then click this arrow to place it in. And the row we want to add it to is going to be the icons table that's already in game. So if we click this and search icon, we'll see UI underscore DT underscore icons. And then we'll press compile and save the blueprint. And then make sure if these aren't saved to save these too. And now if we load into our level, we'll open up our spell menu. We'll see that now we have Obliviate up at the top with our correct icon and the correct text. And then if we apply it to our spell diamond, we'll see that texture down there as well. All that's left to do is upload our mod. Then we're going to select the upload mod button. We're going to make sure that our correct mod is selected. And we're going to give it a name. So we'll call it Unlock Obliviate. And then we'll put it in a mod image, so make sure it's 400 by 400 and a 1:1 ratio. So at least 400 pixels by 400 pixels and a square image under 5 megabytes. Then for the category, let's put gameplay, mod summary, adds Obliviate. And then for the mod description, we'll put adds Obliviate to the list of player spells. Then we'll select the upload button. Thanks for watching, and that's going to be it for this video. If you found it helpful, like and subscribe, and let me know what kinds of videos and tutorials you'd like to see next. Wizard Forge Mods, out.